for half
Here we
an hour.
go. Here we are. We're live now. Welcome to the Drummergy Podcast, episode 126. I'm your host, Fred Rock Fisher. You don't have that many fingers, Gary.
I know. I got the 6. I lied.
I am here with the amazing and talented Gary Tackett.
Yes.
I need an applause track. That would be good to have. So Gary and I are going to talk deep about his long career in the music business, playing guitar, the guitarist for the stars.
Yes.
I love that. We'll get into what that means here in a moment. But, you know, this past weekend was Mother's Day.
Yes.
Did you do anything extravagant for your wife?
Yes. I dug holes in the yard
For
plants, for many plants.
Oh, you were landscaping.
For 40 plants. And that was
40?
our Mother's Day present.
Wow.
Digging holes. And that was great. And I have a daughter that's a mother. So wishing her Mother's Day. And my mother's gone. So I was wishing Heavenly Mother's Day. And it was good. It was good. So we cooked and cleaned and did all this stuff and took all the responsibilities that she does daily, yearly. So
did she get to lay on the couch and put her feet up?
she absolutely did. Yes.
Mary did not.
She directs, she's controlling of, it's where the plants and how.
Of course,
and the hole may need to be a little bit deeper. So,
Well, you can't.
How was yours?
Well, I got sunburnt. See, it's the way the lighting is. It's hard to tell at the moment, but. So Mary's band, Casio Dreams, played at St. Chappelle Winery. So we had to be out there at, I think, 10:30. They didn't play till 1, but they had to set up and sound check and all of that stuff. And I was like a side man to the merch table. So she had a friend of ours arranged to run the merch table, but take pictures. So if she was gone doing that, then I would stand there and try to find a women's medium t-shirt for people. Turned out they didn't have any women's t-shirts at all.
Oh, man.
I thought they were. So those people who bought a women's medium t-shirt, it's actually a men's.
I just ordered my first set of t-shirts yesterday for the Crossroads show. So
cool.
Got a cool design and ISP or ISG. Emily Carpenter did my t-shirts. So,
is that a locally?
Locally sourced, and they do everything here. So.
Nice. A lot of bands are looking for a place to get quality merch and
quick turnaround.
That too.
Yeah, 2 or 3 days. I can order 25, 50 at a time, and they can be done within 3 or 4 days.
Oh wow!
As opposed to waiting 2 weeks. And
what was her name again?
Price, Emily Carpenter.
Emily Carpenter.
ISG.
ISG.
I could look in a little bit.
Okay. Well, I think if they can. Google is your friend. Google is your
friend. This
friend.
portion of the Fred Fisher.
That's right.
Show sponsored by.
Yes.
You need plugs, Fred.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm going
to sell you some spots.
That's right.
On this show.
We got the Drummergy Podcast cups here. Gary's got 2 coffee mugs going this morning.
I do, Fred. It's that kind of show.
You're outdoing me. I don't want to put you asleep.
I won't tell you what's in this one, but one of them counteracts the other.
It's like an elf. Ooh, you like syrup in your coffee too? Yeah, exactly. Ooh, I want some syrup. Ooh. So that's what we did on Mother's Day. We were at St. Chappelle, and then Friday I was with Midline at the Knitting Factory doing a local show. It was pretty good. My leg is hanging in there.
Because Midline's a whole different level. It's a throwdown
it is.
And how long did you play?
8 songs, so about 42 minutes, I think, was how long. But my ankle starts to swell up. Oh, yeah, this recovery from a broken leg thing is it's been a journey. It's been a big journey.
Well, I won't tell you what happened to me this morning then. So
why not?
I fell down the stairs and broke my left foot, my toe.
Seriously?
The 2 toe, yeah.
This morning?
Broke right as we speak.
Wow.
So right after this, I'm going to go to Saint something. One of the saints.
You're going to go to a saint?
St. Alphonsus.
St. Luke's. Saint, help me, please.
Yeah. Saint, help me pay for this.
Oh, yes, of course.
And probably get an X-ray, but yeah.
Oh man. Well, I would have been none the wiser had you said something.
Yeah, it's extremely painful, but
wow,
you go through it. It's like a gig.
Yeah. That's wow. Well, sorry. You were in a hurry to get here.
And just something sarcastic, but I won't.
Well, you could be sarcastic all you want.
Yeah.
So that was what happened over the weekend, and then coming up next weekend, Friday night, I'm playing with Cliff Miller, opening up for Trey Lewis, who I think is some country star. I don't know who he is.
Coming artist.
Yeah,
newly signed.
And then Saturday, I will be playing with Gary for the Crossroads tribute band to Eric Clapton.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
I'm
not going to ask if you want. We're just going to do it.
Yeah. No, it's man. Just I love Clapton. Just a huge influence of mine. I did a bunch of his songs, and just thought of the idea of put a tribute band together and put a set list together. Doing a lot of market research before you start a new project.
Oh yeah,
and tributes is where it's at. So
yeah,
it's like if they're not coming to listen to Gary Tackett flog on the guitar, they might come listen to Gary Tackett playing Eric Clapton, and I'm finding that's kind of the case, and I don't mind.
Yeah,
because I love the tunes, and
some of those artists are older and they're not touring as much or at all.
I can't afford to see Clapton now. It's like it's out of reach, and he's pretty much probably his last year of touring. They say so.
Yeah,
just carry on the legacy and in his honor, and that's cool. And,
well, I'm happy that you called me to see if I would do that, and it's fun learning those songs. Some of them I know because I've heard them enough. I quickly realized, hey, I need to brush up on my shuffles.
Yeah, well, it's like Jamie Oldacker, and did a lot of the older stuff, and Ginger Baker, and he's always Steve Gadd, and he's always had great drummers. And I actually did going back to the Nashville early days. I played a gig with Jamie Oldacker, and somebody had to tell me, well, he's the one that played on Wonderful Tonight and Cocaine, and he was on that record. I'm going like, okay, this is cool. I had no idea.
Oh, wow. I
didn't know his name, but I knew his playing, his legacy, and he's since passed too, but what a great drummer. And I think it's the only record that Clapton actually gave points to every musician that played on that record. And that carried him for years, and not a lot of people knew that.
Oh, wow.
He actually gave them points on it. So every record sold, the musicians got a piece of it.
See, that's how that's done.
Which is unheard of. Now, it just don't happen. And the products or the records I produce in Nashville, you get paid flat fees, and you're hourly, and some of them are double and triple pay, depends on who you get.
Sure.
In the higher Brent Mason, it's triple scale for 4 hours at a time, 3 hour spots. And
well, let's make a big circle.
Yeah.
And my stomach's doing the normal thing where it's like, I don't know why. Maybe I should eat a piece of bread or something before I get on here. It's been rumbling like it's hungry. All right. So Gary, we've been talking a lot the last week and a half or so to prepare for this show coming up on Saturday in Haley at the Liberty Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start talking and just stories go all these different places, you started telling me a little bit about when you left home to do all of these things. So I want to make sure we talk about that. Oh. But what did you grow up in a musical environment? Were your parents musicians at all, or like what got you?
I was brought up in church.
Okay.
So I was raised my grandmother, I remember earliest memories were a package of Lifesavers and sleeping underneath the pew in church until I was old enough to climb up and sleep on the pew in church, but my grandmother always gave me a deal of Lifesavers, and it was a pack of Lifesavers. And I knew when I got to the end of that Lifesaver packet, the service was almost over. I was sucking Sheila's Lifesavers. And I wrote, many years later, through my travels and stuff, that I just remember that Lifesaver, and that was my grandmother and my mother. It was just it turned into symbolism later. But my mother was an evangelist and a preacher. I was a preacher's kid, raised up in church. That's where I learned to play. Both my parents played music. My mother played. She was a drummer.
Oh, wow.
And a shuffling monster, they called her. And in Bakersfield area, she played with Wynn Stewart and Rose Maddox, a lot of old country stars. And my dad was an aspiring singer, star, and he actually recorded his tracks at Buck Owens' studio. So when Merle Haggard and Buck Owens weren't on the road, they all played for my dad. Oh, wow. So all those musicians, my dad kept them fed during the off season, and my mom played drums. But I had Merle's guitar player, Roy. So
where are you living at this point?
This is in Central Valley in Merced, California.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and just north of Bakersfield. And but that's where I learned is on stage in church, and then realized I was good enough to move a little forward, I guess, when people start paying you.
Oh, yeah.
Want to pay you to do it. But with them, I had the opportunity, those well-known players, I didn't know who they were because I'm 9 years old, 8 years old. And I was just, show me that. Didn't realize till later. It's like Don Rich and Roy Nichols, and who has two brothers, Jimmy and Gene Nichols, infamous country guitar players. And they all played, they just switched. When Roy was on the road with Merle, Jimmy and Gene would play with my dad, and sometimes all three. So it's, I still have 1/4-inch reel-to-reel tapes of rehearsals.
Oh, wow.
These guys are, pretty cool stuff.
Do you have a reel-to-reel to play that back on?
I don't.
Gotta find this old equipment to.
Yeah.
Do you think the tape's still good?
I don't know. I haven't seen it in years, but I'm afraid to open the case up, but
might just turn into dust.
Yeah, it's pretty old, but
wow. Okay, so that's so you're a kid, and then did you have this self-realization like, oh, I'm having a certain what's the word I'm looking for? You realize that you're getting better and that you have a certain skill set to play. Yeah,
I consider it a gift. I mean, I had people show me some stuff, and then realized I could emulate players, and I was actually pretty good right and left hand. I got it, and I showed myself a lot of stuff as well. But that was my aspirations because my parents played. My dad always wanted to, be the country star, and I think I just carried that on because all I heard was Merle this and Merle that. And so ever since I was 10 years old, I wanted to play with Merle Haggard. Yeah. And that was my dream, was to get my name on a Merle Haggard record.
And did that happen?
It happened.
Nice.
So it's just, I think, keeping everything, wearing your dreams alive, even at that age. It didn't happen until, 16 years later, but everything kind of led up to that moment. But then it's, I had formed a band in the Bay Area. Going back, I moved to LA, became an emancipated minor to go tour Canada.
Okay. What does that mean? Emancipated minor?
Emancipated minor means your parents no longer have to pay for anything, and you're of your own responsibility. So take care of yourself. You can sign legal documents. You can go to the hospital and get treated. And so it was basically
without their consent.
Exactly.
So was there a process to go through?
Yeah, there was legal process to become emancipated minor to go to Canada. And I had a legal guardian who was the band leader of the band. So he was older, and we toured Canada. And that was my first experience in playing behind chicken wire / strip clubs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
And it was thrown into a fire. and I can't even talk about half of it.
Sure.
Because it was just scary.
Yeah.
It was like the movie Big with Tom Hanks, and he's in the hotel on the bed by himself, shaking.
Yeah.
He took that from my life, because that was me sitting in Regina, Canada, upstairs in a bar where the band slept in 8 rooms. And it was just me with the door locked and sitting there.
Yeah.
I want to go home.
I don't want to die.
I want to go home. So I did. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how old were you? You were 16 when that happened?
Yep. And spent about a year out there in Montana, North Dakota. And had an opportunity to come back. My mother was living in Pleasanton then. My parents had split. And the day after I got back from Montana, from touring, I got a call from my mother got a call from a friend of theirs, Paul Bowman, who had a country music television radio show. And I said, hey, does Gary want to come play with the band? And his son was the drummer, Mark Bowman. We were the same age. I said, yeah, well, I'm leaving tomorrow. I've got a motorhome and a trailer, and we're going to LA. And I said, okay. And it was like that. So we literally drove to Los Angeles and started playing 5 nights a week at a club in Torrance, California. And he started his radio TV station in LA at KFOX in Redondo Beach. So he's the one that got me started. He was a very successful businessman as well. And he could talk his way out of anything, sell anything. He taught me how to sell radio and TV advertising during the day and play during the week. You know, we'd play 5 nights a week, but
so that was your day job, being an ad salesman for.
He taught me how to sell, and it was reading a script, reading a pitch, making phone calls, and that kept me going rest of my life. I mean, what I learned, those skills that I learned there, I never feared of. I didn't have the fear of not being able to make money.
Oh, good.
As a musician, because I could always get a gig.
Yeah. As
a phone guy, you know, wherever in Nashville, LA, I always had opportunity.
Wow.
To do it. And he taught me that. Yeah.
So when did you become self-aware? Like, maybe that's not the right word, but where you just had this thing inside that drove you to be a musician? Like, did you ever think like you were ever going to do anything else with your life, or was it just music was the thing that was plan A and that was the plan?
Yeah, it was the plan since I probably 10, since I knew I was kind of good enough to play with these people on stage and playing in church. But these guys to me were top notch because they were in church. We played 3 days a week and Wednesdays and twice on Sundays. And I knew all the songs and played right with them. And then about 16, when I got offered to go up to Canada. Yeah. With that band, I was playing with, you know, my peers and pros, and they called me, you know, invited me up, and I'm hanging, doing Outlaws, the whole Green Grass and High Tides Forever album, 3 guitar players, and we're just ripping it. It was, that's when I knew I didn't want to do anything else. Yeah. I want to be the best guitar player in the world with my limited ability. You know, just like, but my influences in guitar playing were the country guys, but I mean, Kiss, you know, Ace Frehley and AC/DC Angus, and were big influences. So it's between George Benson and Angus Young. I was going like, oh man, I love that tone, but the taste and tone and style, they were all influences. Yeah. So
yeah. I know a lot of people that I grew up with were like diehard Kiss fans, and that was like the thing that was really driving them. I would say I was a late bloomer in the music realm. So when I really got into music, it was all the 80s hair bands. Oh yeah. That was like kind of my thing was that. And I didn't really appreciate Kiss or even Led Zeppelin for that matter until later. Yeah. And my friends are like, see, I told you. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, how cool is this?
Yeah, I was there in the 80s. Yeah. In LA. So it was kind of when everything was going on, but I was in the country scene and the blues scene still as a kid. But I was hanging out with the guys that would then form Highway 101. It was Jack Daniels, Cactus and Curtis Stone, Cactus Mosier, who was married to Winona. I followed those guys around, and Steve Duncan. So they all played with Paul Bowman, my father-in-law. So I'm playing with J.D. Manis and Steve Duncan and all these well-known players, and playing the Palomino, which was the place to play.
Sure.
Dwight Yoakam and all the country stars were coming up out of there. But they were all intertwined with the rock guys. You'd see all the metal bands coming into the Palomino, because that's where all the girls were at the country bar.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, but I got to witness the recording of Burton Cummings' first solo album. So Woman Love. So I got a call from Jack Daniels. It was actually from Burton Cummings at 3 a.m. on the phone. And can you be up at A&M in North Hollywood in a few hours? And I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
At first. And I walk in the studio, and it's Jack Daniels I knew, Steve Duncan I knew was playing drums, Jeff Baxter, Skunk was there, and then Burton, I didn't know who Burton Cummings was. I didn't know he was a lead singer for the Guess Who. And I'm like going, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they were just partaking in all kinds of things.
Sure.
And
I know what you mean.
When in Rome,
right,
you have to do things, just to hang. And we did, but then I got to play a lot of the clubs that are the Whiskey and the Palomino and all those clubs, and hang out with some great players in LA, because I was just gonna David Lindley, Ry Cooder. I got to watch and sit next to these guys and go to GIT, Guitar Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a student, but they have 2-week courses every year. And I had to go in and watch Frank Gambale and Eddie Van Halen would show up, and all these Tommy Tedesco and all these killer players. Yeah. And I didn't know how to do anything they did, but I just wanted to watch and hang out and and that. So yeah, it was interesting, and got to stand alongside and play with just monster players.
Right. Yeah.
And some like me and some didn't, because I was a young, cocky.
You were Gary. You were Gary Tackett.
I was getting paid by the note, as far as I was concerned.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it took me a while to learn. To back up a little bit when I had my strings cut off my guitar.
Oh wow! Was somebody teaching you a lesson?
Oh, very valuable, especially when you can't afford to get but one pack a week or every other week, and you don't carry multiple sets of guitar strings. Those were your strings for the month.
Yeah.
So. And that was my set, and I came back from a break, and they were cut. They were just gone.
Somebody was knocking you down?
I think it was it was a valuable lesson.
Take care of this guy.
2 or 3 sets of strings from then, from then on.
Yeah.
So it was kind of slow down, take your time.
So you're in the Southern California area, and you're doing all these cool things, but you kind of grew up with some of these people that had a name, but you were just kind of like that. You just were kind of born into that. So you probably didn't really look at them like, oh, that's this, like with a starstruck kind of
and learned, well, everyone there was kind of name dropping, and name drop this, name drop that. Anyway, whatever it took to get through a door. If you knew somebody that knew somebody, you used it. That's what I was taught. It's like, hey, if they know that person, that's going to give you a little more leverage, but until you get on stage, you better be able to back it up.
And do you think that's still true today?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is, because it's on your reference, and because I've had that done a couple of times, been referred. So that's how I ended up in Nashville. So in between LA and Nashville, I moved back to the Bay Area, and had a wife and son born at that time. So I was a dad and had a day gig, formed a band called the California Cowboys.
Okay.
And we played the largest nightclub in California, the Saddle Rack in San Jose, house band there for a while. And we won the National Marlboro contest, played the Oakland Coliseum. So I got reacquainted with Merle's guys. So Merle was headlining Alabama, the Judds, and Restless Heart, and got reacquainted. And I told Mark, Merle's keyboard player, who actually played with us on stage at the Coliseum, did a couple of songs with us live on stage. I told him that was my dream, was to play on a Merle Haggard record. And about 4 years after that had passed, I get a call. I'm living in San Jose. And he goes, can you be in Palo Cedro in 5 or 6 hours? It was a 4-hour jaunt. I quit my job.
Yeah.
And I drove to Merle Haggard's house.
Oh, wow.
And that was the start of recording on the Blue Jungle record, Merle's Blue Jungle record, and sitting there with Merle in the booth, and the Strangers, guys I'd heard on records my whole life.
Yeah.
And now I'm in there with an acoustic and looking at Merle Haggard, and I'm looking at a chart and a demo, and Biff Adams starts clicking it off, and you're in.
Yeah.
You're in. So, and it was just surreal to watch.
Yeah.
We were there for 3 days, and Merle was in and out and did his thing, but it was just kind of starstruck. And, I'm playing with the Strangers. I'm here.
You're right there.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And Merle had a bunch of yellow pads and handwritten lyrics by Willie Nelson and all these guys that he had gotten written songs with for this album. It was pretty cool. And then, October 16th, 1989, we finished.
Oh, wow.
So that was the Loma Prieta earthquake. That's how I remember the date.
Oh,
because I drove home over the bridge to San Jose, and the earthquake happened 45 minutes later.
Wow.
And it was just chaos. But I remember that the World Series was going on. I drove by that, and the Bay Series. So,
wow.
And then got home and realized
the producer's bringing us water.
Oh, thank you. Realized I had quit my job to go play on a Merle Haggard record, which I didn't get paid for. So, I got home on, I got home on fumes, and then realized at that very moment, that man, dreams come true.
Yeah.
And then how are you going to pay the rent?
You'll sell some ads.
Exactly. So,
Joffrey Stone says you're one phone call away from success. And good morning to you, Thomas. Yeah. So, what was the call that took you to Nashville? And did you move there, or did you just fly in and work? And
move there. So it was while I was at Merle's, we had the opportunity to chat and talk, and he was like, well, what do you want to do, son? And I was like, I want to go to Nashville, play guitar. And he kind of knew my story, which was surprising. He knew that Roy Nichols, his guitar player, and those guys all taught me up. And he knew my dad. Merle actually paid for my dad's demo at Buck Owens' studio, which was a big thing.
Oh, wow.
And made a record and all kinds of cool stuff. But he called Vern Gosden out in Nashville and said, I got this kid that's pretty good picker, and and wants to come out there, and said if he can be in Nashville on Monday. We're leaving out Thursday. And I left. I just packed up and left and went to Nashville and started playing, and never looked back. So
how long were you in Nashville?
I moved there in 92 originally to play with Vern, went back to Barry for about a year or so, and then back to Nashville for really a little over 10 years, I think. I left in 04.
Okay.
But I was playing all the lower broad clubs, 2 or 3 shifts a day. The guy, Tim Watson, had a show at Opryland Theme Park. It's like Six Flags.
Yeah.
And we did 2 shows a day. He played the General Jackson, which was the big riverboat. So I ended up playing. I had more work I knew what to do with, and touring in between with local or new artists. It was a blast.
Wow.
It was a blast. I worked my butt off and played, but made good money. I didn't really suffer too much.
Good. Tell Tell everybody out there what a working musician doing the Lower Broad scene is. What is it? And
man, well,
there's the who's of who is all in there too, right?
Well, all of mainly the guys that move there that want to be on a touring, they're under the impression that you tour with this new upcoming artist, you're going to get paid a ton of money and you're going to be on a tour bus and all that, the pie in the sky stuff.
Yeah.
So the musicians downtown are all trying to prove something, which is kind of different now. A lot of the musicians there are the guys that got frustrated and really couldn't make it where they're at. So they moved to Nashville to try to prove that they weren't really that good to begin with, because there's a lot of crap downtown. But the scenario is you show up downtown. Back in the day, you park your car behind the Ryman and hopefully have a little cart. And back in the day, you had to roll your own amp down the hill to Legends and Tootsie's on the corner and start playing at 10 in the morning. And you play 3 hours straight. Rarely had a break, passing tips. Everybody got a $50 guarantee plus tips divided. Then the next band, you'd literally go 10 to 2 and 10 to 150. And then you'd go either next door or across the street. Or if you were good, you had 3 or 4 gigs lined up that day. And sometimes you just wait. You could just literally sit downtown with an amp and a guitar and they'll say, hey, have you got a 2? And nope. Okay, come on over to, us. It's the barbecue place right across from the Bridgestone Arena. I forget the name, but you could work 10 to 2, 2 to 6, and then 6 to 10, and then 10 to 2.
Wow.
In the morning. So some people, to this day, still do 4 shifts, 3 or 4 shifts downtown.
And how many days in a row would they do that?
Depends on how much you needed to pay rent.
Okay.
Yeah, because right now you can make anywhere from $150 to $400 a shift, depending on the tips and the weekends. And so those guys, some of them are making $600-800 a day. That's what I did. I was knocking it down as far as I was concerned.
Sure.
And then some of the guys you're playing with on stage, you don't know who they are half the time. Just calling out tunes, you got to know the Lower Broad set list. So there's 30 or 40 tunes. There, Working Man Blues to the Alan Jackson to Chattahoochee, and you got to know obligatory 25 girl songs for if you have a front that's a female artist.
So you constantly have just a new mix of musicians playing with each other,
3 or 4 times
songs,
a day.
And wow,
so different takes, different personalities, different levels. A player. So sometimes you'd be going for 4 hours, and other times you're going, man, this is slamming.
Yeah.
And most of the guys that were the slamming people, they were playing with an artist already, and they were just they were in between touring. So they come Lower Broad. That's how I got a Tammy Cochran gig, new artist signed to Sony, just playing with guys downtown. Hey, can you come out and road with this new artist? Learn 8 tunes, 10 songs. But then that's how you get on you're just getting the circuit. Yeah.
And so you're doing that. And then, like you said, you don't know who's who. And maybe this guy is part of a national touring thing, but he's in between. So a
lot of them won't tell you.
He's like way at the top of the.
A lot of them won't tell you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They won't say who they play with or, some of those guys, cause you get germed, they call it germed. It's GHERM. They had a spelling for it.
Uh-huh.
But it was the first lesson. You just don't germ people. It's like, hey man, here's my card, and you do your Nashville handshake, but you don't push too hard. If they like you and they get along with you, they're going to ask you,
okay,
hey man.
So they might just be, well, did that happen with you? Like they're playing with you and they're like, hey,
yeah,
there's this other opportunity.
Yeah, that's how I got to play like Daryl Singletary and the gig down at Barbara's in Printer's Alley. So this is where Toby Keith and Tim McGraw, Trace Atkins, Josh Turner, all those guys were just up and coming. in the 90s. So they were all doing the same thing. These guys were playing gigs, but had bands, were recording. So it was pretty cool. Yeah. I got Steve Fischel, who produced Raul Malo, who's the Mavericks. He produced the Mavericks, and Emmylou Harris, and it was a steel guitar player with Albert Lee, and he asked me to do a bunch of shows and showcases. So that's another big thing too. Artists will record an album, and they do a showcase for the label, and they'll hire 6 of the best musicians. If it isn't Brent Mason and Lonnie Wilson and all the studio guys, they'll hire the best in town to showcase for a record label. And you'll play Douglas Corner, and there'll be 25 people there or something, but 4 of them are label execs coming to see what you got. So we did a lot of that, a lot of showcase, but it was just charts. I mean, we didn't move. We don't do anything. We're not there for show.
Right.
We're there to represent the album and the artist. So your nose is in a chart. You're just playing.
So let's talk about charts for a second. Now in Nashville, you have the Nashville number system.
Yes.
Which I've taken a class on the Nashville number system. We have a book on the Nashville number system. And at first glance, for me, it was like, I'm looking at a math equation, right? But once you start to understand what it is, it totally makes sense. So talk about the Nashville number system a little bit to educate us less fortunate.
So the 145, that was I learned the number system in church.
Okay.
They branded it the Nashville number system many, many years later.
So if you know your chords or your scales.
Yeah.
So you could say, I'm playing in this key.
Yeah.
And then those numbers, like the 145, will be in whatever key that is, right? So
your first learning is, if you're in G, G, C, and D is the 3 chords that make up a song. So a 145 is G, C, and D, and you always knew that. And in church, you'll see preachers back in the day they hold on the 1, whatever key you're in. So you're an A, A, D, and E are the 1, 4, and 5. So you see people going like this. 2 minor, and that's how my dad directed the band. It'd be like, you think, what's that guy doing? He's going you're going like, okay, but that's how I learned to play.
Yeah.
And if we knew what key we're in G, you just G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You know the scale,
right?
So, I didn't know any better. That's how I learned.
So you grew up in that system.
Yeah. So when you get to Nashville, like everybody did, Southern gospel and churches and stuff, it's a 145 chart, and then time signatures and breaks, and they got Doritos, punches. A Dorito would be a stop, and you've got all kinds of little names. And but man, it makes it so much easier to navigate a song, especially if you're learning an album's worth, and you can just do 145, and the bridge and chorus are all the same.
Yeah,
and just repeat it. Instead of writing the whole thing out, charting it out, the whole song could be written out in 3 lines.
Right.
So
it's a pretty efficient way of learning that and remembering, or just so I'm sure you had the call, hey, we need you on a session. There's no like, well, send me the songs and I'll see you in a week.
No, it is you show up and there's a chart.
Can you be here in 45 minutes and we're going to hit record?
Yeah. And the projects I produced recently, I would do rough number charts. Then I'd bring it, and Brent Mason, these guys, whoever the band leader on the session was, like Heath Clark, I just produced his album this last year, it'll be released this year. But you got 6 of the best players in the world standing in there, and you talk about where the breaks and punches are going to happen in arrangements while you're sitting. So everybody's got a number chart. Drummer's making his own notes. everyone's making their own notes because there's different phrases. The piano player will write a different phrase or position that doesn't just interfere with the bass lines in his left hand. And sometimes I'll say, just don't play your left hand. Don't use the left.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
Yeah.
Bass player, guitar player, and that register is already, they've got it. So just do right hand, and I would mark up charts when they come in, and especially when you have a steel player, organ, piano, acoustic, electric, steel, fiddle. So arranging all these parts, telling when to play what, when they come in.
Yeah.
It gets pretty.
Yeah.
It's fun.
But it's quick. It's quick, and everybody understands it. So I was always fascinated by by what the national number system was when I first heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Guitarist to the Stars. So you did these things. You an emancipated minor.
Yes.
When you were 16, you went to Canada and then back in Southern California and doing all these things. Ended up in Nashville doing those shifts and then recording. Like I know, because I know you, that led to touring with these artists, and sometimes you've also played the role as tour manager and handling a lot of business things.
Yeah.
So what does Guitarist to the Stars mean? Like, help us out, dear.
It just I had the opportunity, blessed with the opportunity to play with people you would consider stars, so Merle Haggard and Vern Gosdin and Eddie Rabin. All these guys were, in my mind, I listened to their records when I was little. So to me, they were stars.
Yeah.
Well, they were. They had 13 number one albums, 10 number one songs. And so Guitars to the Stars was just like, hey, I played with all these stars, and it wasn't like and you haven't,
right.
It's like,
no,
I did it. So it's kind of like, it's hard not to sound like a braggart or a, what I mean? Well, you've been lucky enough to do all this stuff. People go, well, it's just he's just an ass, and he's just trying to be. And I go, no, I actually did all that stuff, and I can't lie about it. I did it.
No, but I think it's smart marketing for you, and you did all of those things, and why not use that to your advantage? But it's not like you just woke up and stumbled into that opportunity. You worked very, very hard to become an accomplished guitar player, and you can sing, and you've got all this experience, and it was interesting. And sometimes you don't even know who's going to be a star. But the story I tell people is that I bought a chainsaw from this kid in Gallatin, Tennessee, who was working behind the counter. His name was Billy Currington. And I had been in quite a few times, about some guitars from him, and knew, he was a personable, good looking kid. And I said, he goes, yeah, I sing. Anyway, we started a conversation. He pulled a guitar off the wall and saying, please come to Boston. And it was just, you just know, you just go, that guy's got it. Yeah.
This kid's got it.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? And so we started playing Bell Cove and Hendersonville and a lot of little places. I'd show up and play with him, just like Cliff Miller. You know what I mean? Just playing the gigs and doing stuff. My mother got sick, and I left Nashville for a few years. I had to take over a funeral home. And so that was my track into becoming a funeral director and embalmer.
Now, wait a second.
Yeah, I didn't want to go off on that tangent, but I became a licensed funeral director and embalmer.
Oh, wow.
And owned 3 funeral homes in Washington State.
Now, is that what your mom did for?
Yeah, she taught restorative art, San Francisco Mortuary College.
Restorative art,
which is putting basically
makeup on
faces back together. Yeah. After. So anyway, so I did that, sold the funeral homes. Billy Currington calls, says, I got a record deal. I need you to come back, be my tour manager and guitar player. It was just perfect timing. So I moved back to Nashville and watched this kid with a single called Walk a Little Straighter, Daddy. And it was me and him on an airplane 3 days a week going to radio stations, playing acoustic for the first year.
Oh, wow.
Watching the Billboard charts. And he was with Universal Mercury. They put a bunch of money behind it and watched the machine work. And then I put a band together for him, his first band, then became tour manager and cat wrangling on the road. Just many, many stories. Anyway,
yeah, sure.
Financing, accounting, security. And it was interesting, but not knowing at that time, I knew and saw something, but he was going to be huge.
Yeah.
And he went on to, be huge. So,
right.
And now he's still riding on his success that he had, and packing stadiums and still doing the good stuff. So, yeah.
So who else did you do that kind of thing with out on the road? Touring, cat wrangling.
Well, with The Voice, with Vern Gosden, it was just playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
The first night on the tour was with Charlie Daniels and Conway Twitty in Ohio.
Oh, wow.
And the tour manager at the time, I was just a guitar player, pulled out this old Gibson Chet Atkins model with green strings on it and said, first 4 songs are acoustic. I said, you're kidding me, right? I'm electric, and he goes, no, first 4 songs are acoustic. The strings were literally glued to the fretboard. They were rusted shut.
Oh, whoa.
And I just remember in the sink of the bus trying to wipe the strings down. It was so bad. It was terrible. It was a really bad experience. And
but it happened to you.
Yeah. And then the next artist, Eddie Raven, played with for a short stint. He had a bunch of hits out. He drove his own bus. He had 2 little really ornery, mean Doberman Pinscher minis on the bus. And my buddy Josh Berkheimer, great drummer. And those dogs he'd sleep in the bottom bunk in the back, left bottom. And those dogs would just terrorize him in his bunk. And every once in a while you hear him kicking the dog out of the bunk. but back then, I mean, Toby Keith, Daryl Singletary, Charlie Pride, you get to play with all those guys because they need backup bands. And they're playing the clubs. So Tim McGraw, Trace Atkins, and all the guys are just coming around singing, setting in with people, and you're just right place at the right time.
Sure.
Kind of stuff, but yeah.
Well, I mean, right place at the right time, I think is a factor, but it sounds like a roll of the dice. But I mean, still, you did the work to be with the right people.
Well, my intention when I moved to LA was to be around players that make me better, and those guys. And then I knew you have to be where the scene is. So I moved to Nashville, not knowing anything about it, but you have to be there if you want to do this, and you aspire to, or things you have to be where people are doing this every day, all day, and it's a vibe. So LA is the same thing. It was electric. When you get to Nashville, the players, it's just electric. You feel it. When you get off the plane, you're just like, whoa, this is a whole...
You're just immersed in a totally different culture.
Yeah. And it's just so cool. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been to Nashville. But when I did go, I did have that feeling too, like, I just stepped into a movie kind of a feeling, and
it's hard to describe. But
it is.
A musician or musical, you just breathe it in. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. It's like Avatar. You know what I mean? They closed the bubble, and now you're in Nashville, musician. And you're jonesing when you walk around downtown and see people playing on stage. You're going like, oh man. And it's interesting because most of the bands, a lot of the bands I play with, it was taboo to let anybody set in and play. A lot of places and bands I played with would give those people a shot, let them get up and sing a song or do, because that's their dream is to sing on stage at Tootsie's or Legends. And to let those people up and say, and we used to do it quite a bit. Some of them were really good and some were really bad. So I was like regretting it, but
I'm sure you could run the gamut of all of those
but their
different
dad hands
levels.
the band a $20 bill to each of the band members.
You're like,
come
okay.
on up. Come on up and suck for a while.
Yeah.
Suck for 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What, but I mean, when you're in a place like Nashville, does it seem like more people than not have their stuff together? Or is it,
no,
do you think it's a big gathering of mediocre people with a few really superstars mixed in with that people that really have it?
I think that's more the case.
Okay.
Now, the getting in, so when I first got there, I should have, because I love writing. I write every day. I write songs. And that was my regret. I should have been hanging with writers and doing and just being in the same room with those guys. I was worried about playing on stage and, hey, I'm a guitar player and watch me. And they were all using me for that to make you sound better. Hey, Gary can make us sound good and represent our songs, instead of me getting with the writers going, hey, let's write something. And because that's where the money and that's where the, at least then it was.
So with I know this isn't specific to Nashville, but a lot of like superstars, are they recording and performing songs that was written for them mostly, or are they performing and recording their own thing?
I think it's changed. George Strait, his first 6 albums, he didn't write a song. He never wrote a song on it until it started. You got with Dean Dillon and these other guys, I believe was the case. But there's a lot of artists that had ringers, ringer songs. Even the stuff I produced for Heath Clark, great writer, had some great songs. But to represent, to play the game, I went to Kent Blasey, who wrote all Garth Brooks hits. Called him and said, hey, you got a couple of tunes you can send? Yeah, Gary, I'll send them out. And he sent me 10 songs. That to those writers, it's considered I got a new demo, because they don't know if it's going to be a hit or this artist is going to break, but you got to take your shot. It's good to have a name on the record, a hit writer.
Yeah.
Because it kind of, once you let the label know, it's just like marketing or branding, anything else. Hey, we got some songs by Kent Blasey on here. They'll listen to them. They'll listen to it.
Because that writer had success with another artist.
Yeah, it just adds validity to the project.
Yeah.
And if you say, hey, we recorded at Sony Tree, I got Brent Mason, all the A players on it. We got a couple of Kent Blasey songs on it. Ears perk up, drops the guard. Hey, we're going to listen.
Yeah.
That's what it does. You got to play the game. And some of the artists, not necessarily, if they're good tunes and they're good songs, great. But if they, and it depends. There's an independent track and I'm going to do my stuff and stick to it. And if it doesn't make it, I can still have the honor of saying I did my stuff. I did it my way.
Yeah.
And, even though you're not successful.
Yeah.
But success is different. It's measured in different terms.
I watched a David Foster documentary a while back, and somewhere in that documentary, he talks about producing for him. He realized was matching really great songs with really great artists. And like, cause he's talking about Peter Cetera and Whitney Houston. And that was like the first time it hit me. I'm like, they weren't writing their own songs. Like maybe I should have known that already, but I didn't really notice that until I watched that documentary. Yeah.
An artist will listen to hundreds of demos and songs trying to get that and something that's going to fit on the album. And through the year, I mean, these guys are projecting their album a year and a half out, 18 months out. So they're listening to songs. As soon as they finish that last album, they're listening to songs for the next one because they did this already. So they're already forward thinking. And they may have recorded 20 songs, pick 10 and make 3 are going to be pulled for the next one. So they only have to come up with 7 more songs. Gotcha. So they're already in the can.
I did, I was trying to do some research because, as you know, I would love to be on a national tour drumming with some already established artist. Yeah, that's an itch I still want to scratch.
Yeah,
but nobody I've talked to can say, well, it pays X amount of money to do it. I hear more often than not, it doesn't pay anything.
I can tell you exactly what it pays.
Well, we'll do that off air.
Yeah.
But
no, it's not much.
So, and then I've talked to people that are like, oh yeah, it pays great and blah, blah, blah. But the one thing that was really drilled into me, and I've talked about this on my show over the last couple of years, is like all these guys that go out and they do that kind of stuff. They have a job that they do when they're not on the road. They're not just living off of the tour cycle. And so that's why I've got the teaching going and recording and those multiple streams of revenue. But I guess to tie that into like the songwriting thing is I just got on the Musicians Union website to just try to get an idea of what the pay scales are, some of this. And it was interesting, like session musicians, like however many hours they were on, or they were guaranteed a certain amount of hours, regardous of
your 3 hours less. Slot, 187.50. Recording is,
and then it was like, well, if you're doing a session that song's going to be pitched to an artist, it paid this. And then if you're
demo scale,
and then if you're doing a session,
limited release.
Yes.
Yeah. So
See, all this. Nobody out there does, but
you pay 187.50 for every 3 hours, and there's a break in the session. So if you go over that, you owe another 187.50. So if you're doing a full day, usually 2 sessions in a day, that's what the A guys do. So like Brent Mason, those guys are triple scale, double or triple scale for those guys. So they're making double that union. So when you get there, first thing I have to do is get a union card. And all their names, social security numbers go on a sheet. So I know who's on the session, including the engineer, the second engineer, and cartage, all those fees that go into it. But it's if you're in the studio stuff, you can make good money.
I was,
but you're there all day.
Right. I was supposed to move to Nashville in around 96.
Yeah, you've been
at
the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
By now?
Yeah. You've been top of the food chain.
Yeah. There's another guy that has a podcast called 10-Year Town, and it's about being in Nashville. It's pretty good. So I was playing with a band, but it wasn't like in my mind this thing that was like really promising. But I had some musician friends that lived in Nashville that were putting a band together, and they needed a drummer, and they're like, hey, do you want them to move to Nashville? And so I went to Nashville and I started grabbing all these brochures and things for apartments and looking to get a job. I was applying for a job at National Cartage and Sound, which I knew some other people that worked there.
Yep. SIR.
I think now SIR is a big rehearsal studio, right? I can't remember if National Cartage and Sound had a big rehearsal room, but wherever I was, it was kind of like an arena sized area without the seating. And Garth Brooks was set up with the full production deal with the staging and lighting, rigging and all that. Was
rehearsing for the tour.
Yes. I was like, wow, this is, like you said, you arrive in Nashville and you're like in a whole different world of stuff, right? And the band I was playing with here had a connection with Bill Aucoin, who was Kiss's manager, and he convinced me to stay and work with this band. So I didn't go to Nashville. And so every once in a while, that little feeling of regret creeps along. Like, I should have just went to Nashville when I didn't have the deep roots.
Yeah. Well, that's where I leaving in 2004. I had the same thing. It's like when I left Nashville, it was like, man, going back to the Bay Area to play the same, the clubs and with those bands and those venues after that.
Yeah.
So in the back of your head, you still get a little,
shoulda, woulda, coulda kind of a thing.
I should, where would I be now if I had stayed there? But I wouldn't have the wonderful life I have now. So everything for a reason.
Yeah. I've been trying. I look at it more like that way now too. Cause you could go start swimming in those ideas of regret,
especially at my weight. I mean, at my age. Especially at my age. I couldn't tour in Nashville. You don't fit into the obligatory size 34 jeans. It's like, dang it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the producer, she said we were supposed to move there as our honeymoon. Yeah. Yeah, we were. I worked my butt off. Like once we committed to moving, I went and visited Nashville. And even that short time I was there, I met a few other people that are like, yeah, as soon as you're in town, let's.
That's the way it works. They're excited about new people that have that, you know what I mean? They're great players that move into town. Everybody's like that. They're all welcoming.
Yeah, it was really
half
cool.
Half of them don't. You know what I mean? Half of them go like, man, well, I did. And they stay in contact with you, but they're working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were, Mary and I, we got married. Well, that was our plan, was we saved all this money up to be able to move and have a little bit to live until things kind of started happening. And then Bill LaCoin says, why don't you try this? No. Well, when you're talking to the manager at KISS, you're like, well, maybe I should see where this road goes. Yeah. Big carrot.
Yeah.
So that ended up not, neither thing happened.
Well, one of the incidences that happened from the Bay Area to Nashville is the band, the California Cowboys. We had won the Marlboro contest, the Nationals. We won the regionals. We go to Nashville to compete in the Nationals, and the guy that beat us was a guy named Ronnie Dunn, Brooks and Dunn, with his band, and he was. That told me right there when I heard Ronnie Dunn sing, and he was in the Marlboro contest.
Yeah.
He'd already had a record recorded.
Okay.
It was premeditated, I think. But we went back to, we got offered, James Stroud, who was the president of Giant Records, came out and saw us in the Bay Area. And he just signed Randy Travis. And he goes, I want you guys, I have a soul artist. Randy Travis's kid from the Nashville Palace was a cook there. I just signed this kid. He told us the story. And he used to get up and sing on his breaks. Randy Travis, they let him sing. So he signed him, and he goes, I want you guys to be my first band on Giant Records.
Oh, wow.
And we're sitting there going, oh, man. And I knew who it was. James Stroud played for the Monster Studio drummer. James Stroud was the guy, turned producer. I said, guys, we got to go. This is it. And we had a girl representing the band that he just didn't, James Stroud didn't get along with. Says, well, I'm not going to work with this. And the other guys in the band had jobs and families. And I decided to go. So one of the judges in the Marlboro contest was Ron Cornelius, who played guitar for Bob Dylan and was the licensing manager for Sony CBS Records at the time. And he goes, you got to move to Nashville. You got to, so at the same time, I just done the Merle thing. And so that's, I was going regardless.
Yeah.
So anybody else is doing, I said, y'all just do your thing. I'm going to Nashville. I'm going to go pick and grin and live out my dreams.
Yeah.
And I did. And then, that was, then after that, after the Billy thing, 2004, moved back to the Bay Area. And then up till 9 years ago, was playing there. And in between jobs, and my buddy Jim Smith in Fruitland used to be the DJ for KSAN Radio in the Bay Area, and invited me to come out and check out Idaho.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay. I gave all my guitars away, my amps. Wow. I was done. I retired. I quit. I was like, I've been there, done it.
Yeah.
No point. And anyway, so I moved here, got a job with a software company, sales, living in Fruitland. And before my wife and kid came up from the Bay Area, I went to the Shiloh Inn in Nampa and met Grant Green and Larry Gates, and it was a jam session, Tim Swanson. And I walked in, and Larry Gates, I played his guitar because I didn't have one. I had one put away, and that was it. I was going like, well, this is pretty cool. I might be able to play again. Then I met Kevin and Barry, who played together for 20 something years. And I thought the talent pool was going to be pretty shallow, but there were some good players and good people. And
is that your agent calling you?
Yeah, one of many. Yeah, yes. Guitars to the stars. That's how I answer the phone now, because nobody knows me by my real name, Larry Tackett.
Larry Tackett.
But and Larry gave the amp I use today. Larry Gates gave me because I didn't have an amp. But I've since amps and guitars in the last 9 years. I've acquired more stuff, but I still use the amp that Larry Gates gave me when I went to the first jam session. And I love it. And so it's gonna...
Well, so I mean, you mentioned when we first went on somewhere, like we're given this gift to play, and sometimes people want to close the door on that, and then they realize pretty quickly that maybe that's a mistake.
Yeah, you really can't. I mean, it's you can step away from it. You can take a break, burn out, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of things, life in general. If you're not doing that, concentrating 100% of the music, you're distracted, and then you have many plates.
Yeah,
as I call it.
Yeah.
And it gives you what I call the monkey mind. So you got so many things going on between your family, friends, your kids, your wife, your job, juggling a lot of stuff. So what I found is I work better having 10 plates.
Yeah.
I have to have 10 going. I have to have 10 different projects, or, 2 or 3 jobs and 2 or 3 bands. And, it works better for me just to keep things going. And I can switch a different hat just in a minute, 9 to 12, I'm doing this. And then I think it's coming Nashville playing, have to shift gears, shift bands.
Right.
But being able to multitask.
Well, I know that, Scott Alexander moved here with the intent of not being in music anymore. And I told him, because, he and I have done so many things together. I'm like, I'm really glad that you play music still. And I think he is too. We get a little older. We do it all on our own terms.
Yeah.
I tried to quit in 2009. I mean, the economy was crashing. I had my own landscape business. I was like barely any work to do.
Yeah.
I really felt like the mindset of midline was, some of the guys were still like, we're going to go for it. We're going to make it. I'm like, that's not happening. This isn't happening. I was just like, I had kind of reached the end of all that. And I'm like, I have a wife. I've got little kids at home. I cannot, I always felt like my musical dreams were pretty selfish, and I think they probably still are.
Well, you fight with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it, Mary a lot of times was just home with little kids, and I was always gone, working all day, and then, hanging with the boys and playing music, and it was like, I got to be responsible at some point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to quit, and then it wasn't long after that, it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm back.
Yeah. Well, and the stigma related to that goes on to being a musician. So when you meet people, what do you do for a living? For years, I was proud to say I'm a touring musician. I have a house here. I pay my rent, my bills, my child support. I pay all this stuff playing guitar. So it was kind of a pride factor. I got all this playing guitar for years. I did that. And it was good times, because literally sometimes, if you didn't want to play that day, or you're on a tour with band, you have weeks off at a time. You take off October through April, you have 6 months. If you're good with your money, you can tour 6 months out of the year, make enough to not work the rest of the year. So kind of living the dream, being responsible. And it was good times. But it's in you. You can't.
Right.
It's
that's the whole thing.
It's an infectious disease that you'll never get rid of.
It's in your DNA. You just can't.
Exactly.
You can't. let's catch a couple comments here. James Harris, do you know James?
I do, but I don't think we've met. And if we have,
James says, I'll put his comment up here. James says, I have friends that went to Nashville, but I went to Boise instead because of the graduate assistant position. State always wondered, what if I went to Nashville? I think James is originally from Kentucky, and he's, obviously a very accomplished drummer.
Yeah.
Joff Stone says, man, my curse: guitar, drums, martial arts, and guns. If I could only just have one interest. Mary says, but what's your real job? I don't know if that meant to be like a serious question or.
Oh yeah. Well, since I've been here, I've always had lucky enough to have great sales manager positions and or work your way up the food chain. For the last 3 years, I was director of Associated General Contractor. So it was AGC, membership director, bringing in members, and brought it from the 23rd largest chapter in the U.S. to the 4th largest chapter in the United States. So kudos, and they send me to DC, and I get these awards. And so I think the music thing and the strive or the dream can carry on into anything. Yeah. So you're driving ambition and wanting to be successful and be on top, and be 1%. And it carries on to every other job I've had too. So, so I'm helping out with the American Subcontractors Association and working for Smoke Guard, which is a life safety manufacturer that manufactures smoke curtains that go in front of elevators. So I'm not, so I'm proud to say I've got several jobs, and I still play music, but I've got killer insurance, a 401k.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. So.
Oh, Mary says that's what people always say if you're a musician. What's your real job?
Yeah. Oh. Yes.
Yes, that's true. I finally figured out a way to how to be a full-time musician and leave the landscape world behind, which I was just so miserable. Like I always felt like my calling was drumming.
Yeah.
And just figuring out. So I got some really good mentors in my life to say, yes, you can do these things. Just do them, have a plan. And I did that. And so now I'm like in the best position I've ever been in ever.
Yeah. Well, you get to do it for a living.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people ask me that question that Mary said, what's your real job? And people say,
but then I'm a drummer. I teach people to.
Oh, he's homeless.
He has a
His wife must make a lot of money.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, man.
No, they do. I've been asked that recently. Like, what do you do for a living? I'm a full-time drummer. I'm a musician.
Yeah.
And then that's always followed up with, but what does your wife do? Like, she's also a full-time musician.
Well, that's on your LinkedIn profile. Do you put, hey, executive director, and then you put former guitarist for Merle Haggard, or do you put guitarist for Merle Haggard and then put all those jobs underneath? It's like, I think I'm going to switch mine around, because it's like, Brian Factor, it's like, oh yeah, he was a director, he was this, oh he was that, and then they look down and go, what, guitarist for Merle Haggard, Billy Current, and that's cool, and so I think I may shift that on my LinkedIn profile, just to.
You don't have to have the other thing. Yeah.
I got nothing to.
Speaking of LinkedIn and social media, how's LinkedIn work for you? Has it done anything for you?
I was one of the first people being Silicon Valley to get on LinkedIn. Back in the day when it was when I learned it was a business social thing. This is AOL and Rafter Chat, and I'm old, so I remember back in the day when it went. Earthlink gave you a free disc, so you didn't have to pay $23.90 a month for AOL. But in the Silicon Valley, when LinkedIn came on, it was for music. It's more of the the secular business kind of world. I don't see many musicians on it.
Yeah,
I don't see a lot of advantage.
I got on there. I got on there to like, market myself as a drummer for hire, but I've had a couple people message me about that.
Mm-hmm.
One was pretty suspicious.
Yeah, it's not our audience,
Yeah, and it's like I don't know, maybe I might not give it any more attention to.
Yeah, it's not really the audience that we're after. I mean, if you're a real estate developer, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It seems like it's geared for
business. That. Yeah, and when I see music posts on it, even my own, I'm going like, well, that was a waste. I'll never get that 3 minutes back.
No,
it took me to post this.
Anthony would say I never say this right.
Tejano.
See, I can't get my mouth to form the words. Gary gets to buy me lunch with his real job.
Yes.
Joff says, I used to say power broker by day, rock star by night. Greg Goodall says guitarist and aspiring sandwich artist. And James, one of my best drummer friends, was trying to become a studio drummer in Nashville, had a certain amount of success. Steve Holland.
Yeah. Now, man, playing with just the ability to play with those musicians. Name drop it from, Jeff Baxter, Ry Cooder, David Lindley, all my heroes at the time I got to meet and play with. But even the drummers, Rich Redmond, Jason Aldean's drummer, we rehearsed in a basement in Nashville, and we moved to Nashville at the same time with Scotty Simpson, bass player for Travis Tritt, Pam Tillis. We all played in a house band at the 11th Frame Bowling Alley in Hendersonville. We moved to Nashville and formed a band, but it was me, Scotty Simpson, Rich Redmond, and a keyboard player, singer. We all got discovered kind of out of that. The guys in Little Texas would come in, Johnny Cash and June Carter, Roy Orbison. They all lived there in Hendersonville. At the bowling alley, they'd come in. Rich Redmond, Walfredo Reyes, Junior. Been lucky to play with some great musicians in the Bay Area. All those guys, Myron Dove, the guys that play with Santana, and we all played together in the Bay Area, and we just all up and coming. I went the country route, and they went to, Santana and Chicago. And
I recently started following Rich Redmond on socials. I haven't really connected with him yet.
Oh yeah, but I gotta get with Rich. He's awesome.
He was on the Drummers Education Connection podcast. I don't know, 6 weeks ago or so. It was really interesting hearing him talk about being in the Nashville world, recording and doing demo stuff for artists. And he plays for, is it Jason Aldean?
Jason Aldean. Yeah. I've been with him since the beginning.
Okay.
So the same time Billy was coming up, they both had record deals. Jason Aldean and Billy Curtin, all the bands rehearsed in Rich's basement. So when we were done rehearsing, they'd go out and Jason Aldean would come down, they would rehearse. To go out on the road, just a basement, little studio, and cramped into a little space, working on songs. And it was pretty cool. And
so I like to ask this question or have this discussion with people who aren't drummers but are very good musicians. Like, what do you expect from a drummer? You've had all of this experience with really A-list drummers, recording, touring, doing shows. Like, what to you is important from the drummer? And I want to know this because we just started playing together.
Yeah. No, well, like when I first moved to Nashville, I thought the talent pool was going to be, again, pretty shallow. So compared to who I played with, you know what I mean? So I was like, nothing's going to match this, meet this. I meet Barry and Kevin, and these guys have played together for 20 years. So the rhythm section, they were just tight. Yeah. They were just tight. And not fancy, not over the top. They played the parts and timing. There was no dragging, no speeding. Barry's just always right on the money. Yeah. You know what I mean? You always see it's like, you're not going to get anything. And I really don't, it doesn't fit kind of my originals and my stuff. And there was the Crossroads stuff, you coming in, there's Ginger Baker and all kinds of stuff. So the energy for that show, little different expectations. But timing's number one. Being able to cop the groove.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a recorded song that's already been previously recorded, somewhat of that feel, nobody can cop those guys. But in Nashville, it's expected. When you hear a guitar lick or an album, you're there to reproduce those tones, those sounds exactly like the record live, even though you didn't record it. So the ability to do that. Anyway, to answer your question, is somebody come in and just play the songs and listen to arrangements and play with drive and energy and feel like they want to be there. You know what I mean? Just be there and be present and play and listening, and interacting. That's basically it for me. The drummer's always been the guy that's watching and or directing, knowing, because as long as we all start at the same time and end at the same time, we don't give a darn what goes on in between. Just everybody have fun, and we'll see at the end. It's like boom, boom, bam. Okay.
Well,
it's like the rehearsal I was saying. Just when I say flog or flail away, concert ending, it's just like keep playing, just more cymbals, just keep crashing until I give you the cue. Boom. Yeah. Because sometimes they're okay. Are we done? Okay, we're done. Nope. No, you just keep going. And
I've had some of my students who are working drummers around town who have had like some fill-in gigs that were pretty important on different levels. And sometimes people flying in and like if there's a rehearsal, it's like one, and they're kind of panicked a little bit, understandably so.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what am I looking for? Okay, well, you're the drummer. You're at the back of the stage, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a view of everything.
Yeah.
It's like if you got a singer, guitar player playing, and you're looking for time, the guy's going to give you some kind of body language. Either the foot's moving, or you see the strum of the arm or the neck. It's
visual.
Like, just lock in with that. That's what you got to be looking for and listening and let them direct you on what's happening.
Yeah. And some are temperamental. I've seen them argue with it. I've seen some artists argue with a metronome. And this is how we did it. This is the way we did it last night. This is the way we did it rehearsal for the last 3 weeks. And tonight, you just don't feel it.
Right.
Yeah. It's just like, and you could either be and just go, you know what? This is the way we're doing it. This is the way this is the way it was. Or you can keep your job and go, yeah, we'll bump it up 3 clicks. How does this sound? And that's how you keep your gig.
Yeah.
And you just go with the flow and just change it back tomorrow, because it's just put it back to, it's just, it's like turning up the monitor, but not really.
Yeah.
Hey man, we're going to bump it up a click. You can actually say you did and don't. Oh man, okay, let's bump it up 3 clicks. All right, how's that feel? Some people can tell, but
yeah. Well, I for me, and probably for you too, you can tell, you could feel that difference of even 1 beat per minute.
Yeah.
Change.
Click. Yeah. 1 click.
It could be just that one thing that just like, I don't feel like I'm leaving first gear.
Yeah.
And then once you move into the next gear, you're like, oh, okay, now it's rolling. I took my foot off the brake. Yeah.
It was fun listening to a meditation lesson the other day, and it was breathing in and out and counting 1 to 3. And he counted 1 and then counted 2. And then he goes, your meditative state is in between 2 and 3. The anticipation between 2 and 3. That's where you're at. So you breathe 1 and then 2. And that's where you're supposed to be.
I feel myself trying to do that now.
That's where you're supposed to be, right between 2 and 3. And then when everything's resolved, you kind of like 3. Okay, when you want to get out of it. So, and I try to stay in 2.5.
Yeah.
2 most times. It's like, that was interesting.
I really try not to have any band arguments on stage.
Just leave it for later.
Yeah.
Or keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna pass in 3.5 minutes.
Right.
This is all going to be over. Yeah.
So I play with the click all the time. There's very few songs with Cliff, for example, there might be 3 or 4 songs throughout the night that I don't play with the click, like Folsom Prison. I don't do that. Or there's a couple other ones, but everything else is that. And we were playing one night and Cliff was skipping around in the set. It was just one of those gigs that was just like, oh, is it over yet? I think the whole band was feeling that way. And he called out the song, and I just glanced at the set list and I scroll my metronome really quick and I click it off and we're going, and Cliff's singing along and he looks back at me and he's like, is that the right tempo? And I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, okay. And we're like, we're like off to the races. Right.
Yeah.
And we got done and we're like, everybody and as I'm playing, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. But I'm like, it's just like there's all these psychological things are going through my head. Like, this is a rough gig and we're just surviving,
getting through it.
And we got done and Cliff's like, whew, and calls out the next song, and like 5 or 6 songs later, he calls out the next one, and I looked down and I was like, oh, I played the wrong. It was like 10 beats a minute faster than it should have. And I was like, I am so sorry.
He's sweating.
I'm so sorry. I felt so dumb at that moment. I was like, because he said, "Is that the right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's the." I was so confident that we're gonna play this at breakneck speed. I think that's the only time I've done that, but it was. But there was no argument about that. It was just, we're just. But I mean, I played with other people that could be like,
yeah,
listen.
Yeah. Some situation. Well, it's like on the road when you work on those tunes, we play 8 to 10 songs in a set starting out, but we rehearse one song a day for 8 hours on one song.
Oh, wow.
So we'd rehearse a rhythm section, lead parts and melody instruments, and then harmonies. And for that one song, and then we put it all together at the end of the day and make sure that one song was like that, tempos and everything. Play it 2 or 3 different tempos. Because live versus the record, we listen the record down. Okay, it's in, it's 78, but live, you can't do this. We can't do this in front of 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So bump it up 2 or 3 clicks on every tune that was recorded. We'd bump it up, but we spent time doing it.
Yeah.
And literally dedicated to each song. And I think that was the difference then too. Instead of going to show up rehearsal like us burning through 14 songs and you're going like, hey, we did it. But at that point, it's like if you have the beginning and you have the ending, to me, it's kind of like, things in between are just going to fall into place. If we know how to end it together at the same time, and it's like that's all everyone's paying attention to is that beginning,
right?
And sometimes the middle, solo, and the end. And what you do in between is,
well, I'm learning
your own business.
Yeah, it's your own business. Let's see what we might be missing. Blue Flashes. Good morning, Mr. Coffee and guest Jared Halleck, Miguel. How do you expect to go viral then? He must have been commenting on, he said, joke. Mary's laughing at, it was the right tempo for the song after that one. Yes, it was. Oh, I'm playing the right tempo. Not for this song.
Not for this song. It was
this other one later.
It was a right tempo.
It was
a right tempo.
But not the right tempo.
The right tempo. So it exists. Yeah.
Well, it just proved that I could play that other song 10 BPMs faster.
I just wanted to play that. I wanted to skip this one.
It had no groove or feel, but I did it.
Because this song sucks. So I don't want to play the next song. So I'm playing the next song.
We probably could have replayed the other song at the right tempo and it would have sounded completely different.
Completely different. Yeah. That's funny.
Because nobody would sound like a chipmunk. Yeah. Miguel says, that's in regards to dysfunctional stage arguments. Oh, yeah. How do you go viral without the arguments on stage? Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna scan my notes here really quick. On a side note, did you know that today is National Windmill Day?
I did.
Because you saw my notes earlier.
It's right there.
It's right there. Yeah. So you have Full Moon Rude.
Yes.
That's a pretty regular.
And it's spelled many different ways. Full Moon Ride.
But isn't it rude?
Yeah. I've had Full Man Rider.
Oh, yeah.
People that promote it.
Yeah.
And they think it's something else. And Full Moon Rude came from playing gigs, usually biker bars on Saturday night. If there was a full moon, there's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
It's going to to be ugly. And
that's where the viral videos come from.
Yeah. Full Moon Rude was just like when there's a full moon, people just have a tendency. You can just tell. So that's where that came from.
You also have a Smoke on the Water show.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, that was my harebrained idea about 4 years ago to bring my buddies. We all played together in the Bay Area to Boise to play the Sapphire Room.
Mm-hmm.
And I flew Tony Lindsay, lead singer for Santana. He's got 11 Grammys. And Myron Dove played with Santana for 14 years. Played bass for Robin Ford, Gatemouth Brown, you name it. Walfredo Reyes Jr., Steve Winwood, Chicago's drummer. Now Santana for many, many years. Lindsey Buckingham, Chaka Khan. Walfredo's he's played with everybody.
Yeah.
And my favorite, David Lindley. I didn't know he was the drummer for David Lindley until I played with him. And Eamon Flynn, keyboard player for the Commitments, the British movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Eamon played all the piano on that, and then with Michael Ferrante and Spearhead was his organ piano player. It was an excuse for me to fly those guys in and just jam for an hour and get together and play. Yeah. And we sold out 2 nights in a row the last 4 years at the Sapphire Room. We're not doing it this year, so we were going to. Everybody's schedules are just Chicago's playing through winter and they're booked up, and all the other guys are doing their own thing. So I'm actually doing the Crossroads show there on the 13th, November 13th. So, and that's I'm going to Texas. I'm getting all kinds of response doing the tribute. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, cause I can fly in literally to any town the day before and put together 4 guys that have the set list. And so it's kind of doing a national thing with it. Few and far between, but
he could take his new drummer. Just that's between us.
Yes. Well, it's kind of a business decision.
Yes.
I had to pencil stuff out as flights, rooms, food.
You could book me a room.
It's just a business model.
I know.
But here you can do all those here. I say within a 3-mile radius, because that's about as far as I'm going to drive and get home the same night.
Did you say a 3-mile radius?
3 hour radius.
3 hour?
Did I say mile?
I thought you said 3-mile radius.
Yeah. I only
guess I'm playing at Albertsons.
Yeah. No, you're playing at Maverick.
Yeah, exactly. There's a Maverick within 3 miles of anywhere you are.
Yep. That and a commercial tire.
True. Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to the Crossroads gig.
Yeah, Liberty
playing
Theater.
Those shows. That's going to be so cool to be part of that.
So I think we have rehearsal soon.
Tomorrow night.
Yep.
Tomorrow night.
And play Saturday. And then June 13th, Indian Creek Winery.
We also got May 27th at the Indian
May
Creek
27th,
Plaza.
Indian Creek Plaza.
Yeah.
Yep. So we got a few of those shows, basically building content for other theaters. And so you basically have to wean yourself off of you can do the local. I mean, I'm playing Sandbar tonight. So me, Barry, and Kevin playing Sandbar 5 to 8, Riverside Hotel on the river.
That's the Full Moon Rude.
Full Moon Rude. Yep. So presented by Idaho Blues Society. Their Blues Tuesday.
It's awesome.
Just playing.
Well, I'm really looking forward to playing with you and everybody else. Gail Chapman. I have never met Gail.
Yeah. Oh man.
Former Prince.
Yes.
Keyboard player for Prince.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the energy is just it's cool. Gail and Grant Green on percussion.
Yes.
Kevin Jensen playing bass and flogging away and singing harmonies. And it's going to be.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to remember the arrangements of everything in my head. There's some of them are starting to cross pollinate. I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. I think we try to keep it to a minimum on arrangements so we all remember them.
Yeah. I'll have it though. I'll have it. Gary, thanks for coming this morning and hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
Being on the show.
Yeah.
We for quite a while, you and I were meeting up about once a month for coffee, like on a Saturday morning.
Yep. And it grew into an international podcast.
That's right.
From coffee at Starbucks to.
Yes. Well, I do really appreciate you dedicating your morning to hanging out and doing this and being part of my show.
Anytime.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's awesome.
Okay, guys, have an awesome day. Make sure you go follow Gary Tackett on your socials and check out the new Crossroad thing that's happening.
CrossroadsTributeBand.com.
Oh, there's a website.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
CrossroadsTributeBand.com. And then GaryTackett.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Go check it out and stay in touch. And thank you for hanging. Have a great day, you too, Greg. Thanks for hanging out. Miguel, Mary, James, Blue Flashes, who's up in the New England states. Did I miss anybody? Joffrey, Anthony. Trinette was here. All right. Thomas. I think I said hi to Thomas. Very cool. All right, guys. Have an awesome day, and I will see you next Tuesday. Peace.